Good evening, friends. Today we are going to see the fourth and very important chapter of our 10th standard NCERT, that is agriculture. So this chapter, like previous 6th, 7th, 8th standard agriculture chapters, this is also focusing on various crops and various problems of the agriculture. So just little bit in detail. So let us see this chapter. So first of all of you know that agriculture is a primary activity, one of the most important activity in India, as more than half of the people are employed in this agriculture sector. So if we see, most of the rural population of the country is in the agriculture sector. Rural India, if you see, 90% of the people are in the agriculture related activities. So if we see the total population of the rural India, which is engaged in the agriculture, so it is almost 80 crore people which are engaged in the agriculture, and depending how much amount of land that we have, that is 250 million hectares of land. So you can see such a small land has a huge population. So if you see average per person how much land it will be, so almost half acre average land comes to per person, getting it. So that's why you can see in India we have intensive kind of subsistence type of agriculture practiced widely all over the country. So more than 2/3 of the people of the India are depending upon the agriculture. Still, half of the population of India is depending upon the population. But is contribution of the agriculture that much to the amount of population that is there in this sector? No. Service sector and industrial sector contributes more in the GDP compared to agriculture. Even growth wise, if you see, growth rate of the contribution of agriculture is decreasing continuously from 1950s. So this is one of the worrisome condition, because half of the people are working in the agriculture sector, but growth is not happening in that way. So let us understand various characteristics of the Indian agriculture. So first, let us understand different types of agriculture. This already we have seen in the previous year NCERT, the different types of agriculture and different types of livelihoods. So first type of farming is a primitive subsistence farming. So subsistence farmings are two types. One is a primitive, another is a contemporary. So primitive means what? Primitive means slash and burn. Tribal people, how they used to do the farming? They used to cut the jungle and they used to do the farming on that land. Then they will leave that land. After 5-6 years, they will leave that land. They will burn another part of the jungle. They will start doing agriculture there. So where they have left, that patch will again grow back into the lush green area. So this is a primitive subsistence type of farming. So it is generally practiced in the tribal areas, in the jungles. They are using primitive tools like hoe, dhow and digging. So these digging sticks, so these are the different types of tools used in the tribal areas. So who are involved over here? Definitely clans, villages, members of the family. They are involved over here. So there is no mechanization, there is no technological innovation over here. Just normal natural way of doing the agriculture. So until and unless the soil is fertile, they will do the agriculture. Once fertility is gone, they will leave that land. So generally it is known as slash and burn type of agriculture. So there is no use of technology, no use of extra fertilizers, which people will not go and give the other organic fertilizer or urea or something like that. Whatever fertilizer is there in the soil of the jungle, they will utilize that fertilizer. So here land productivity of this agriculture is very low because they are not using the external inputs. They are not using technology. They are not using fertilizers. So that's why the productivity is not so high. Getting it? But this is enough for these people. Their requirement is not very high. They don't want to sell it into the market. It is just like for 5 months, 6 months, it should, or 1 year, their work should be done. Their stomachs are full. This is their requirement. Okay. Second type of agriculture is, okay, let us understand these types of primitive agriculture and their names. So this zooming has a different names in all over the world. This slide is very important from prelim point of view. 100% one question is guaranteed from this slide. Okay, so this primitive type of agriculture, so zooming is as it is known as in the northeast, Pamlu in the Manipur, Dipa in Bastar, and in this way these different names are given all over the world. So if you see in the all over the world, Milpa in Mexico, okay, then Contigo in Venezuela, then Roca in Brazil, Masole in Central Africa, Ladang in Indonesia, Ray in Vietnam. Now you have to mug up these names. So definitely, generally we tend to forget these names. So some part of the syllabus you should leave just to read before 1 or 2 days of the exam. So you should remember this on the day of the exam. In India also, it has a different names. Like it has a Bewar or Dahiya in Madhya Pradesh, okay, Podu and Pedna in Andhra Pradesh, Pamadabi in Koman, and this is in the Odisha, Kumari in Western Ghat. Then you have Waltre in southeastern Rajasthan, Khul in Himalayan belts, Kurwa in the Jharkhand, and zooming again in the northeast. So for match the following, okay, type of question, these names are very important from prelim point of view. Okay. Second type of agriculture, intensive subsistence farming. Now first of all we have seen primitive subsistence. Now intensive subsistence. Intensive subsistence means what? Now in a particular area, population is very high, land availability is very low. So what happens? Size of the farm is very less. People are more to feed. So what they do? They take twice, thrice or 4 times crop in their farm. Generally, normal farmers, they'll take 1 crop or 2 crop in a year. These people will take 3 or 4 times these crops in their farm. So that's why it is called as intensive subsistence. And why subsistence? Because it is not for the selling. It is for their own purpose. Because they are not going to buy from outside much inputs. So they will grow vegetables, they will grow rice, they will grow wheat, they will grow all other cotton, everything they will grow in their farm for whatever is required for their purpose. Getting it? So here pressure on the land is very high. So you will see the distance between the boundary between 2 farms is not demarcated properly. Okay, they are very narrow boundaries or very thin boundaries. Getting it? So that's why so many fights happen in this type of farms. Like people will try to shift the boundary very easily because they are very thinly marked. They are not thick boundaries. Getting it? So this is intensive subsistence farming. Third type of farming is commercial type of farming. Commercial, as it knows, it is produced only for to sell in the market. So big landlords and big farmers, sometimes big companies, generally in the Western countries, this commercial farming is very famous. So generally over here, high yield variety seeds are used. Since as you know, this is for commercial purpose, anybody would want more crop in, more outcome in their from their crops. So what they will do? They will use high yield variety seeds. They will use more and more chemical fertilizers because focus is to generate the profit. So commercial farming, here they will take 1 crop or 2 crop in a year, but they will be only for the purpose of the selling in the market and getting the profit. So this is called as a commercial type of farming. So these are the different types of farming. So when we are talking about the farming, one of the major important part is cropping pattern. Cropping pattern means what? Cropping pattern means what type of crop is grown in which area, in which season, and what type of variations of the crops are done in that part of the country. This is called as a cropping pattern. So it is a type of pattern people repeat year after year, season after season, but in the same way, in a same region, in a same season. That's why you are calling it a cropping pattern. So generally in cropping pattern we have 3 seasons: Kharif, Rabi and Zaid. So Kharif you have one type of cropping pattern, Rabi you have another type of cropping pattern, Zaid you have another type of cropping pattern. So Rabi means what? Rabi means winter crops. So in winter, whatever crops you sow, you are calling it as a Rabi crops. So generally wheat and sesame, these are one of the major and largely sown crops. Okay, then you have peas, grams, some lentils also you have. So generally they are sown between October to December. This time they are sowing the Rabi crops. Now second type of crop is a Kharif crop. Kharif crops are completely dependent upon the water. So generally in the June month they will sow it, and at October, November they will harvest it. So you have a paddy, you have a jowar, you have some lentils, you have bajra, you have tur. So these crops are important crops of Kharif. So you need to remember the names of these crops because they can be asked in our preliminary examination. Now what happens between Rabi and Kharif crop? When winter finishes and crop is being harvested, winter crop is being harvested. So what happens in the, for example, April to June, so there is some moisture in the land. So whatever moisture available in the land and little bit of extra irrigation, they take a small season crop called as a Zaid crop. So generally they are like crops like cucumber, watermelon, muskmelon and vegetable crops. They are grown in this Zaid season. So very short season. Okay, already moisture is there, just you have harvested the crop and still land is wet, so you can take one more crop before sowing for the summer season or rainy season. So this is known as Zaid crop. Now friends, these are the three types of crops that are taken and a part of a cropping pattern of India. So what happens since independence, we are thinking about changing the cropping pattern. Right now also lots of research is going on about changing the cropping pattern. So what do you mean by changing the cropping pattern? That means you put the different habit into the people depending upon the changing climatic circumstances, changing economic circumstances, changing population circumstances. So you change the cropping pattern as well to match the changing social, climatic, economic conditions. So since our population is growing very fast and everybody wants a minimum income, including farmers. So what is happening? The debate is always going on between cash crops and non-cereal crops or high valued crops. For example, tobacco, cotton, sugarcane, then timber. If farmers start taking the timber, they will become crorepati's in 5 to 10 years. Getting it? But we are not allowing it. We are not allowing tobacco farming much because it is, if everyone starts taking high valued crop, then we will not have food to eat and we will have to import it. Getting it? So these are the drawbacks of changing cropping pattern. But some countries, some benefits of there in changing cropping pattern. For example, you will earn more income to the farmers. Farmers' income will go double, triple, even 6 times more. So that's why this changing cropping pattern is one of the debate. Some countries like Japan and some countries like European around Mediterranean seas, there are countries who export fruits like olives, citrus fruits, apples. They don't grow cereal crops. They will import them. They will grow these fruits and they will sell it. Grapes, they will make wine and they will sell it. So the farmers are very rich. But this is not in case of India because we have a huge load of population behind us. Now, let us understand major crops of India. Let us understand different varieties of these crops. So first major crop is rice. Rice, everyone knows, we love the rice eating, we love biryanis. So rice requires very high temperature. It requires very high rainfall. It requires rainfall more than 250 centimeter or almost around 250 centimeters and temperature about 25 degrees. It is a Kharif type of crop. Okay, India is the second largest producer of rice. China is first producer in many products. That is one of the debates which is going on right now. Okay, so this requires very high irrigation. Irrigation required for the rice crop is very high. You have seen that they are making huge ponds, okay, in the farm for the rice crop. So it is taken various parts of the India, and different varieties of the rice are taken. Like in the northern India, they will take different varieties of the rice. Basmati they will take. Okay. In the South India, they will take Pongal, these types of rice. Okay. Central India, another type of rice like Ambe Mohor and all. Northeastern India, their rice varieties are totally different. Getting it? So rice is grown all over the India, but their varieties are different everywhere. Okay. Next type of crop. Next crop is wheat crop. Second most important crop is wheat crop. Wheat crop is the second important staple crop in the India. Specifically northern part of the country, we eat wheat, and central part of the country, we eat wheat in a huge amount. So it is a rabi crop, like a rice, which is a kharif crop. This is a rabi crop. The water requirement for this crop is less. Since it is grown in the winter season, water requirement is very less over here. So Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Haryana are the major producer of the wheat. They are known as wheat granaries of the India. What happens during the winter season, from Mediterranean Sea region, there comes western disturbances. We have seen the western disturbances in the climatology chapter. They gives rainfall in the winter season, which is very productive for the wheat crop in the northern India. So that's why this wheat crop is grown in a high amount in this region. Next crop is millet. So millet, it is a monocotyledon crop. So millets, you have jowar, you have bajra, ragi, foxtail millets. So many types of millets we have, but famous are jowar, bajra and ragi. So millet, they are also called as a coarse grain. They are very coarse. They are not very tasty while eating like rice and wheat, but they have very high nutritional values. Okay. So they have micronutrient in huge amount. For example, ragi has a huge amount of iron. Getting it? So these micronutrients are in a huge amount in the millet crops. That's why national millet missions have started. So Karnataka was the first state who started the national millet mission. Now India itself has started the national millet mission. And we are trying to change the cropping pattern in the southern India, specifically in Karnataka. Because of the water scarcity, we are telling people shift from sugarcane to the millet because it is going to give you good income and it has a very high nutritional content. So millets are one of the important crops. First of the millets is the jowar. So jowar is a very third famous crop in India. Anywhere, southern India, northern India, people love to eat jowar sometimes. It is very good for your health. Okay. So Rajasthan takes very high production of jowar, then Maharashtra, and then you have Madhya Pradesh, you have Gujarat, you have this Karnataka. Getting it? So jowar is very important. It is taken as a kharif crop. Okay, it is rain fed, but it requires very less amount of rainfall. Very less irrigation is required. All the millet crops, irrigation required is very less. Next is a bajra. Bajra production also, Rajasthan is very ahead of bajra. It is called as a pearl millet. Okay, so it requires very less amount of fertilizer, very less amount of water. Even it is called as a crop of a poor people because it does not require much maintenance. Just throw it into the soil and it will grow. So it is taken by the poor people. It is eaten by the poor people, but actually it has a very high nutritional quality. That's why you'll see poor people who are working in the farm and eating this type of food. They are very strong. You have seen these Kambala race winners. They are not eating or drinking Boost, Bournvita and high quality protein that we people eat in the gym. But still we get lots of diseases. But these people, they are always fit, getting it because they are eating very high nutritional things like bajra, jowar, this type of things. Next important millet is a ragi. Very high iron content. Okay, so that's why you can see it's reddish in color. Okay, so ragi, it also requires very less rainfall and it is used for various purposes. Like people will make papad out of it and so many things they will make. Okay, so ragi is taken in southern India, northern India, northeastern India as well. Everywhere ragi is very famous. I think in southern India people will make a sweet ragi soup as well to drink with a jaggery. So it's very famous all over the country. Okay, it requires sandy and loamy soil. Getting it? So sandy soil means does not require, it cannot hold much water. So on the coarse soil also it can be grown. So red soil is better for this because red soil has a higher iron content. Getting it? So in the red soil area, it will come a very good crop will come over here. Okay. So friends, these are the important millet crops which are taken in case of India. Next crop is a maize. Maize used both to feed the animals, generally poultry farms and this fish ponds and even dog food, cat food. So many things are made using the maize. They are used as a for feeding the pigs and birds. Everyone can eat the maize. So for eating for the human, eating to the for giving it to the animals, birds, to the consumption of the human beings, maize is used. So it is a kharif crop. Temperature is a little bit higher temperature is required for this crop. Soil requirement is a fertile soil, but sometimes normal soil is also fine. Though it is not much fertile, it can be grown on the less fertile soil as well. But if you have fertile soil, it will grow very well. So though it is a kharif crop in some states, for example, parts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they'll grow it as a rabi crops as well. Getting it? Because they have higher temperature, they are close to the Tropic of Cancer, so they will use it. So northern India like Karnataka, Andhra, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, and generally northern India where alluvial soil is very good, they are growing the maize crops. So maize crop is very, very important. Ethanol is also made from the maize. Getting it? Alcohol can be made from it, ethanol can be made from the maize. Each and every part of the maize can be utilized for some purpose or other. The stalks and these things can be eaten by the animals, so they will produce the good amount of milk. Next crop are pulses. Pulses are very, very important. Getting it? So without pulses, we cannot, in India, specifically South India, you cannot eat rasam, you cannot eat dal, you cannot make biryani, you cannot make sambar. Getting it? So pulses are very, very important. So we have different types of pulses. Some pulses are rabi pulses, some pulses are kharif pulses. Pulses are mostly leguminous crop. So because of their leguminous, they fix the nitrogen. Getting it? So except one or two pulses, okay, most of the pulses are leguminous in their types. So we are the largest producer as well as consumers of the pulses. You know, before 2014 election, so there was lots of shortage of the pulses and we had to import pulses from the foreign countries. Inflation became very high, and because of the drought condition, even 2016, because of the drought condition, we had to import the pulses and we told African countries to grow the pulses and we'll import it from you. Getting it? So pulses are grown all over the country, specifically Central India, Northern India, no part of the Indian subcontinent. I'm not talking about just India, but India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal. Nepal's, it is said that their state dish is a dal chawal. Getting it? So pulses are very, very important. Okay. So we are the highest producer as well as consumer of the pulses. So friends, these were the food crops. So let us understand food crops other than the grains. So there are other food crops like we have sugar cane, we have beetroots, we have horticulture crops. So there are other food crops than the grain. Let us see them one by one. First important crop is the sugar cane. You know sugar cane, we cannot live without sugar cane. For making tea, for making any sweet, for making chocolates, you require sugar cane. You require sugar. For making jaggeries, you require sugar. So sugar cane is grown in a huge amount in India. India is the second largest producer of the sugar cane. First one is Brazil. Okay. So India is the second largest producer of the sugar cane. It requires very high amount of water. Getting it? Also, sugar cane, once it is harvested, it loses its sugar very fast. So very fast it needs to be reached out to the sugar factory to extract the sugar. So sugar cane always is grown around the factory area. Rainfall requirement is sufficiently, though it is 75 to 100 centimeter, but it is very water consuming crop, as well as overall process of the sugar production is highly water consuming process. Getting it? It is said that one spoon of sugar cane, it requires 10 to 25 liters of water. Okay, so it's very water consuming process. The ideal location for the sugarcane production is a tropical region. So this region is a very ideal location. It is a C4 plant. It requires lots of sunlight to do the photosynthesis. So tropical region produces very sweet sugarcane. But this is also a drawback, because in tropical part of the India we don't have good water supply. So that's why slowly these sugarcane belts are shifting to the northern part of the country. So all over the India, you will find from Punjab to Tamil Nadu, you will find the sugarcane belts. Now, next edible crop, other than the food grain, are the oilseed crops. So which are the oilseed crops? So you have a sunflower, you have a sesame, you have a other, like you have soybean, you have a groundnut. Okay, so groundnut is also there. So they are required to produce the oil. So we have a huge requirement of oil. So India cannot produce its own oil, so we have to import lots of oil from other countries. Getting it? So we are the third largest producer of the world after Canada and China. Getting it? So India is third largest producer. We cannot produce our oil seed because it is very much part of our each and every activity. Okay, whatever purpose we have, your bathing purpose, for eating purpose, for medicinal purpose, we use oil. So these are the oil crops. Okay, very important. Okay, so it is used for eating. Also, it is used in the cosmetics, ointments. It is also used in let us say production of the certain types of vehicle greases. Okay, so vehicle greases, pesticides also produced by using certain types of oils. Even oils, further alcohols can be extracted using the oils. So you know ethanol, methanol can be extracted using the oils. So oil seeds are very important crops. First important oil seed crop is we have three important crops. One of them is most important is a groundnut. Without groundnut we cannot prepare many things. Very important crops. Very high energy food, groundnut. Okay, so it is a kharif crop. Gujarat is the first producer of the groundnut. Then we have Rajasthan, Andhra, Maharashtra. They also produce lots of groundnut. So groundnut also requires little bit of higher temperature. It is a tropical crop. Okay, and while harvesting it, there should not be raw water logging condition in the field. So 25 degrees up to 25 degrees temperature it requires. Water while sowing the seeds, okay, it requires huge amount of water, but after that water is not required in that much quantity. Okay, then you have a linseed. So this linseed is a rabi crop. Sesame again is a rabi crop. Sesame, you'll see this Bollywood movies, Punjabi movies everywhere, hero heroine dancing in the yellow flower fields. So these are nothing but a sesame seeds, sesame crops. Okay, then you have a castor oil, very important from health point of view. Okay, if stomach is not well, people will have the castor oil. So rabi and kharif crop, it is both rabi and kharif crop. So these are the important oilseed crops of the India. Now let us see the other crops. These crops we have already seen in the previous NCERT as well. Tea. Okay, so India is one of the top producer of the tea. We are the second largest producer after China. Origin of the tea is in the China, and China produces huge amount of tea because of that. So it is called as a chai in Chinese, and cha, it is called as a cha in Chinese. Okay, so and chai in case of India. So this is a plantation crop. You know, Britisher introduced this crop in India, specifically in the northeast India, in the southern India, and parts of the Kangra Valley in the northern India. So there they introduced the tea. So tea is an integral part of the country. It requires high rainfall. Water should not be locked over the water should not be locked in the soil. So well draining soil is required. So generally it is planted on the slopes of the mountain. So it is very labor intensive industry. So tea is very, very important. Next is a coffee. Everyone loves to drink coffee. We love filter coffee. So this is these coffee beans. Again, the same conditions as of that of tea, but it is planted under the shadow of the big trees. It does not, it cannot tolerate the sunlight directly. So you have two types of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica is very famous all over the world, and India also produces huge amount of Arabica. Specifically, southern states of Tamil Nadu produces huge amount of Arabica tea, coffee. Okay, Baba Budan's hills of Karnataka also famous for the coffee plantation. Okay, so coffee is one of the important export crop or export oriented plantation crop that we take in case of India. Then we have rubber. We have a rubber is a not non-food crop. Then we have horticulture crops. So horticulture crops very, very important. So India is one of the highest producer of the food crops or fruit crops after China. Getting it? Almost we are second largest producer, and after some days we will be the first producer, because northeastern states have become now demarcated as a horticultural states where we will be growing the horticulture crops. Getting it? So mangoes, which regions are famous for the mangoes? So Alfonso famous in the Maharashtra. Then there is a Langda, there is a Chausa, there is a Kesar, there is a Benganpalli. There are so many varieties of the mangoes. Some of them will come in the rainy season, some of them will come in the summer season. Some of them you have to eat it, some of them you have to make a juice out of it. Getting it? Some of them are for the pickle purpose. So mangoes are very, very important. Then banana. Banana, southern India. After food, everyone eats banana over there. So bananas are utilized for many purposes. Banana, each and every part of the banana plant is utilized. So Kerala, you have Narendra banana, you have Mizoram, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, everywhere you have banana, different types of bananas. We have very famous. Then lychee and guava. Bihar and UP are very famous for lychee and guava. Meghalaya is famous for pineapple. Andhra is famous for the grapes. Maharashtra, Andhra are very famous for the grapes. Even this vineyards like Sula vineyard, very famous vineyard of India, is present in the Nasik. So grape capital of India, you can call it as. Okay. Then you have apple, you have pears, you have apricots, walnuts, which are grown in the temperate region of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. You have kinnus, a type of orange, which are grown in the Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. Okay. So horticulture crops are also very, very important crops. Okay. So these were all the food crops. Now, next most important crops are the non-food crops. Like we have cotton, we have rubber, we have jutes, we have so many other crops, but we are going to see few crops only. Okay. So first is a rubber crop, specifically grown in the state of Kerala. Okay. Plantation crop. Okay. Huge labor intensive crop. Okay. So basically it requires high temperature, high rainfall. So it is an equatorial crop. But under specific condition like high rainfall and high temperature which is present in the Kerala, so that's why it is grown in the we can say tropical region as well, beyond equators. So rainfall requirement is very, very high, and temperature is requirement is very, very high. So it is important industrial material for various purposes. The clothes are made up of rubber, tires are made up of rubbers, and so many things are made up of rubbers. Okay. Next type of crops are fiber crops. Fiber crops, you have jute, hemp, cotton, silk. Okay. So these are the fiber crops, and so many purposes fibers are used. Okay. So the main important purpose is the wearing textile. So without fibers we cannot live. So first crop is a cotton crop. Since ancient times, since Harappan times, we have this cotton crop. So cotton is a very important crop. It requires little bit of higher rainfall. It requires high temperature as well. It is black cotton soil is suitable for it. So it is very famous crop in the Deccan region, specifically Karnataka, Maharashtra, Andhra, where black soil is there. It's very predominant crop in this region. But once it is grown, once it has the cotton balls, then it requires frost-free atmosphere. If there is a rainfall or there is a frost, then pink bollworm will start affecting the cotton crops. So that's why it requires frost-free 210 days. It also takes longer period of time to get matured than the other crops. But once it's matured, each and every part of these crops it utilized. That's why it's very highly beneficial crop. No part of this crop is going west. Getting it? So Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and some part of the northern part of the country as well, people are taking the cotton. So the guaranteed income crop, but you have to take lots of care. Okay. So nowadays we are using this genetically modified crop called as a BT cotton. Okay, we'll talk about this later. Next crop is a jute crop. Jute crop specifically taken in the northeastern states of West Bengal, Assam. Okay, we have seen the Bardoli Chira, a type of a local rainfall which happens in the West Bengal and Assam region. So it is good for this jute crop. So jute is used for making bags, used for making sacks. So it is golden in color, known as a golden fiber. Golden revolution was also started by the government of India for the production of the jute crop. Okay. So it's a very important crop. It requires high rainfall for the growth, high water requirement for the growth. Also for the processing, it requires water. Not just for the production, but also for the processing. We have to separate the fiber from the crop. It requires water. Okay. So jute crop, one of the very important crop. So friends, these are all the important crops of our country. Okay. So hope you have understood this. Very, very important from prelim point of view. Okay. Now let us go to the economics part and sociological parts of the farming, which are mentioned in this chapter. Okay. So what has happened? Farming, as we have seen, we are seeing that more than 50% of the people are involved in the farming, but the share of the farming in the overall GDP of the India and economy of the India is decreasing. Problem is not that. Though share is decreasing, but number of people dependent upon the farming are still more than half of the people. Getting it? So that is why we require lots of reforms in the farming sector. So we require technological reforms, we require institutional reforms, we require various types of reforms. So what are the problems of our farming? First, we have a subsistence type of farming. Type of farming is a subsistence, very dominant type of farming. There is no, we can say commercial type of farming is not there in case of India. Second thing is our farms are fragmented. We have seen that only half of acre per person land is there. So almost 1 or 2 hectares of lands are there for each and every person, whomsoever number of people they have. So it is very economically unviable to do the farming on such very small land. So consolidation of land holding is required. Getting it? Then what is happening over here? There was a time in the ancient India, in the modern India, pre-independence time, where most of the farms were consolidated in the hands of zamindars. Still, these farmlands have not been freed from the zamindars and huge land is present in their hands. Getting it? So the consolidation of the farming, consolidation of this land has happened in the hands of zamindars. So abolition of the zamindari has been done, but the farmlands are still under their control. Getting it? So that's why government of India, like Punjab government, has started a consolidation of holding program, where, for example, in one family there are 4 brothers. So what they will do, they will tell all 3 brothers to sell the land to the one brother. So instead of having 2 hectares of land, one brother will have 10 hectares of land. Getting it? So in this way, consolidation of land holding has started. Abolition of zamindari has been done. We know that we have already abolished the zamindari, but it has not been properly successful. Land reforms has been done on the paper, but in the practice they are not successful. For example, first 5-year plan itself is talking about the land reform. We have abolished zamindari. We have put the Land Ceiling Act, but implementation is very, very poor. These zamindars have registered the land on the names of their cats and dogs. Getting it? So these are certain reforms which have been done, but they are not successful. That's why there are more suicides of the farmer nowadays. So what government has seen 60s and 70s? Okay, whatever farmlands our farmer have, let us improve that farmland. So what they did, they started the different revolution, like green revolution, white revolution. So they were successful at some point of time, but now we have become self-sufficient. After becoming self-sufficient, our stomachs are full now. Now we are looking at the huge drawbacks put forward by the green revolution and white revolution, like huge chemical fertilizers and the bad health benefits because of the use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. Getting it? These are the drawbacks of these revolutions. So what government did in 80s and 90s? Okay, these green revolution, white revolution, government has seen that it developed only few patches. It developed only UP, it developed only central India, it developed only parts of South India, but it did not develop overall farm sector as such. Getting it? So government has started comprehensive land development program. So instead of the small revolutions, they have started all round comprehensive land development program. So under that land development program, they have not just started these revolutions, but they set up institutions. They brought technological reforms to the farmers. Getting it? So what type of technological reforms, what type of institutional reforms they brought? So they started crop insurance scheme. They started flood, drought, cyclone, fire insurance scheme. Like we have Pradhan Mantri PMSY. Okay, so Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is one of the important schemes that we can see. So this is how approach of the government of India is changing. Then we have shifted from this revolution and we started Gramin banks because they thought only revolutions are not important. Farmers need money. Farmers need money, that also at a cheaper interest rate, sometimes at a zero interest rate. So cooperatives have started, Gramin banks have started, who will give loans to the farmer. They will not fall in the clutches of the money lenders. Getting it? So these types of reform has been done. Okay. What are the other reforms? So we have Kisan credit cards. So almost 25,000 of rupees can be instantly farmer can withdraw from ATM directly. No need to go to the banks. Directly in a year, 25,000 rupees can be withdrawn with a zero interest rate by the farmer or very low interest rate. So Kisan credit cards are very, very important. Then if farmer suffers from the personal accidents, so personal accident schemes. Getting it? Then they started specific bulletins, specific news channels, specific mobile Android apps for the farmers. Television channels have been started. Other important thing is minimum support price. Minimum support price. What is happening? Middleman. What middlemen are doing? They're taking farm output at a very cheaper cost from the farmers and are selling at very higher cost to the consumers. So in between, middlemen are benefiting and consumers and farmers both are at loss. So what government did to stop this? They decided the minimum support price for the selected crops. So they said if bajra rice is there, okay, you will get per kg, okay, you will get 5 rupees or you will get 10 rupees assured. Getting it? So if above that, if any money lender is giving you, you sell it to money lender. If below that, if some money lender is asking you, then you sell it to government. So minimum support price is very important for the farmers. So it stopped the speculators and middlemen and their roles. It benefited both farmers as well as consumers. Okay. So these are few important reforms that government has brought. So friends, when we are talking about government reforms, we cannot forget talking about the Bhudan, Gramdan started by the Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave was one of the disciple of Mahatma Gandhi during the freedom struggle. Gandhiji declared him as a spiritual heir. Political heir was a Jawaharlal Nehru, spiritual heir was a Vinoba Bhave. So Vinoba Bhave, he started after the assassination of Gandhiji, he started Padayatra of entire country. So at one place he was giving the lecture in the Andhra Pradesh, okay, Pochampalli village, I think, yes, Pochampalli. So here he was talking. So few farmers came. They said that Vinoba ji, for our well-being, please give us some land, so we can be better fed up. So he said, what I'll do, I'll talk to the government. I don't assure you, I'll talk to the government. But at the same time, a person called Sri Ramachandra Reddy, he stood up and he said, he was a zamindar. He said, I will give my 80 acres of land to the Vinoba ji. So from this time, the concept of Bhudan has emerged. So he donated the land. That's why this thing is called as a Bhudan. So similarly, other landlords came forward. So these landlords, some of them were owning the entire village. So they donated the villages to the Vinoba ji, so that they called as a Gramadan. Getting it? So this Bhudan and Gramdan was sufficiently successful movement in India. It is also called as a bloodless revolution, because nowhere in the world the land has been acquired without shedding the blood. So by willingness of the landlord, they have shed their lands in the form of Bhudan and Gramdan. Okay. So these are the very, very important reforms, and this is one of the important movement. You can use this it can come in the ethics paper. It can be used in the essay. Okay. So very, very important, Bhudan and Gramdan. Okay. Now let us touch the economic aspect of the agriculture. So we have already seen that agriculture output is growing, but overall contribution is decreasing. So it is observed since 1951. So over here you can see that in 2014 agriculture sector growth rate was 4.2%. 2014 in between minus 0.2%, negative growth rate. 2015-16 1.1%. Whereas other industry and service growth rate is increasing. Overall GDP, we can see, was 7.6%. So this in 2015-16. So overall you can see that agriculture growth rate is decreasing year by year. Why it is happening? Because there is less investment in the agriculture. It is not lucrative for the farmer. Next generation of the farmers are not ready to take the agriculture as their profession. Getting it? So farmers are facing big challenges. What are those big challenges? So big challenges are in the form of decreasing the lucrativeness of the agriculture field, international competition, degradation of the land, reduction in the public investment by the government. Import duties are being reduced. Like government is signing different agreements, trade agreements with the other countries. So in that trade agreements, like WTO, what they are telling you to reduce the import duties. So because of that, developed countries can sell their produce in the huge developing market. So what is happening? Farmer is at the loss. Getting it? So population is increasing, size of the land is decreasing, and import duties are going down, and productivity is decreasing, pollution is increasing, cost of inputs are increasing. So these Subsidies are decreasing slowly because of the agreements like WTO. They are saying you should not give subsidies to the farmer. So because of that, farmers are facing these big challenges. So because of that, overall farming business are coming into the loss. Getting it? So these are the different challenges in the farming sector. So globalization has done the huge impact on the farming definitely. So in terms of technology, we are benefited, but in terms of competition, we are at the loss. So countries like USA, countries like Japan, countries like Mediterranean countries around the Mediterranean Sea, they are selling their products at cheaper rate to the India. So we are at these products are coming at very cheaper rate in case of India. So globalization has brought these problems in case of India. Now they are talking about gene revolution. Gene revolution means what? To use a genetically modified crops instead of normal crops. So genetically modified crops, they have higher productivity, they require less land, they are drought resistance, they are pest resistance. So they have been introduced with a different qualities. So these are the various impact of the uh, globalization on agriculture. There are so many impact. The impact of globalization of agriculture is itself in a new chapter that definitely we are going to see. We'll discuss when we'll come to the class. So this is overall the things which are mentioned in this chapter. I hope you have understood. If you haven't understood anything, please ask me on the Telegram. Let us see the MCQs based on this chapter. Which of the following described a system of agriculture where single crop is grown on the larger area? Shifting agriculture? No. Plantation? Yes. So definitely this is the answer. Which one of the following is a Rabi crop? Rice, gram, millet, cotton? Yes. Ripe, rice, Kharif crop. Gram, millet, cotton, Kharif crop. So either gram or millets. So which is the Rabi crop? You decide. We have seen it. Which of the following is a leguminous crop? Jowar, not leguminous. Millet, not leguminous. Sesame, not leguminous. It's very simple. So these are the multiple choice questions that we have seen. I hope you have understood the chapter. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Thank you.